Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Etcher Lab live demo. If you can hear me, please type llama on the chat, and that way I can know that we are indeed live. So go ahead and type those llamas and we can get started. All right, this is so exciting. I see people from all over the world here. This is so cool. California, Michigan, Tennessee, Canada, the Great Lakes. Wow, we are everywhere here. Oh, nice. Awesome. I see a llama. So welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you here today. Join us for another Etcher live demo. My name is Maria, and I will be your host for today's live demo with Tina Hotchkiss, and I'm super excited to present her today. As you know, we host live demos quite frequently nowadays. So keep your eyes peeled for our calendar, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell so you can get notifications of all of the live demos that we're getting, so you can tune in and see your favorite artist paint live, which is always such a gift in these times. I'm always amazed at what technology is doing for us nowadays. Also, I am going to ask you all to please fill in a survey so that we can know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and who else you want to be on our YouTube channel, who else you want to teach classes. So please go ahead and fill out that survey. I will drop that link on the chat right now so you can have it. There you go. Awesome. So I want to introduce you to Tina Hotchkiss. Hi, Tina.
Hi, everyone.
And Tina is going to teach us today how to paint with watercolor and ink, and it's going to be amazing. So if you have any questions for Tina while she's painting, please type the word question in all caps in the chat so I can scan it and find your relevant questions to what she's doing. And I will ask them to her if it makes sense of what she's doing at the moment. Otherwise, I will save them for the Q&A portion at the end, because we do have that section, or I will ask them when it's more relevant. But before we start doing any kind of painting, I would love, Tina, for you to show us some of your other work so you can show all of our viewers what you do.
Sure, I would be glad to. I'm going to switch my camera here. This is what we're going to be working on, but let me show you some work. This is what the mini workshop is going to be on, Tiger, watercolor, and ink. And this has a little bit of color pencil in it, mostly watercolor. And I have a landscape. And this is watercolor with black gesso and color pencil. Another landscape. You can see that I like a lot of active line. This is actually using masking and then painting the watercolor over and with the black gesso and color pencil. And here's a still life of rocks. And you can see the same thing with the masking, lots of texture and lots of layering of color. And this is all watercolor.
Wow. I love those colors.
Oh, thanks.
So what are we painting today?
We're going to be painting I believe it's a parrot. I don't know, maybe the viewers know more about birds, but I think it's a parrot, I think. And we are going to be doing a watercolor wash first, and then going in with ink. So I thought I would show you, let's first look at the colors that I'm using.
Let's go over your materials for today. That would be great.
So this is my palette, and I already used my spray bottle to spray down the colors. You want to activate them so that they're ready for you to paint. If you have them on your palette, they're dry, so you need to add water to them. So I have my list of colors. So I went ahead and just wrote them down for you. I have Hansa yellow, which is over here. And for my blue, I'm using Phthalo blue green shade, which is down here. And Diopside genuine, which is a deep green right here. And a Pyrrol scarlet, which is right here. And then my transparent red oxide, which is right here. And what I like to do on my palette, you can see that I have them tabbed with,
Yeah.
so that I can find them easily. I also mixed a little bit of it on my palette, and you can see that they're drippy and ready to go.
Yeah. That's such a great tip because sometimes you don't know what's in your palette. So it's such a great idea to have it pinned somehow.
Yes. Yeah, this is great because a lot of you'll go over here and then you might end up in one of your other greens, and this will help you. Also, you can see that I'm mixing, looking at what some of the colors will look like mixed together, and I'm seeing the colors that are actually in the bird. We're gonna kind of do our own thing with some of it too, but this gives me a really good idea of what those colors look like mixed together.
So we had a comment on the chat from Patty Wilson, and she was telling us that the bird is a green-cheeked conure. He's a small parrot from Central America.
Sweet. So it is a parrot. At least we're right there. Oh, that's fabulous. That's great. That's great. I'll go over my brushes. These it seems like I'm always trying new brushes, but I really like these. Here's my quill that I use, Princeton Neptune quill. It's a number 6, and it holds lots of water. It's great for the for your washes when you want things to drip. And yeah, it's an awesome brush, and it comes to a nice point. And then I have my Skoda Pyrrol, and it's a number 12. It comes to a great point here around. And then for a finishing brush, which I probably won't be using today, but maybe, this is my script. Scripts are sometimes called riggers or liners. And this is what I'll be using. I'll be using a number 2 today. So those are the brushes. I also am going to be using Etchers fine liners and their brush pen. And I will be talking more about that when we get to the inking part. And I'm going to use a 05.
And I will drop a link on the chat, everyone, if you want to check out our graphic pens. Tina is using the black graphic pen collection.
Yep. You've got a awesome choice of pens here, different widths. Great product.
Awesome.
Yes, and I hopefully will get to it. I selected some color pencils here. I generally use Prismacolor, and so I selected some of those colors, and I'll talk about those if we get to that. And one other thing, I'll talk about my paper too. I use a trigger spray bottle. And you'll see how I do that when I get the paper wet. The paper I'm using today is going to be Arches cold press 140-pound paper. And the way I stretch it, I just put masking tape, and I don't always stretch my paper, but for this project, we're going to be getting it so wet that we do need to stretch it. And I just use masking tape, regular masking tape. And I don't have any problems with it ripping my paper because I do use a good quality paper. If it's not 100% cotton paper, you might have some problems with the masking tape ripping your paper. So you might want to use a lighter stick tape on that, but I haven't had any problems with this. So I think that'll, of course, you need water. And I always have handy a lightweight rag that I can use to clean up drips. If you have a lot of water that's down at the bottom, it will create blooms. And so you have to make sure that you keep your tape area pretty dry. I'm also working at probably I would say 15-degree tilt of my easel, because I added 15-degree. This would be flat, so it's about 15 degrees. We have our image, we have our drawing. I like to draw directly on my watercolor paper. I usually don't trace or anything like that. I just draw from that. But I gave the image, so you're welcome to trace from that. And I think that that's probably good with the materials. And I'm sure you'll let me know if there's any questions on those.
Well, I have one.
Sure.
What did you use to trace the bird?
Oh, you can use a light box. If you have a light box will go through the watercolor paper, especially if you have a room that's completely dark and you can use a light box. So you can do that, or you can use graphite tracing paper, which looks like this. And you put the dark side down and you would put your image, and then you would just trace over that on your piece. So I will use this for a drawing that I've done. I might draw directly on my watercolor paper, but before I will watercolor, I will copy it to make sure that I have the drawing. So if I want to do another one, I can, and I don't have to go through the pain of drawing it again.
Yes.
Yeah, I really recommend people to draw their images, but tracing will work. Another thing that you can do if you don't have graphite paper is just to take a number 2 pencil or HB pencil and scribble on the back of your image, and then you can put that on your watercolor paper and just trace through that, and it will transfer.
Yeah. All great tips.
Yeah, so you can do that. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started with painting if there aren't any more questions before.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Okay, sweet. Okay, so I'm going to start out with our bird. I like to have a lot of action in my work, and I do that through giving texture with the watercolor, and also through the line of the ink. And one way that you can get, there's so many ways you can get texture with watercolor. And also, I like to have little peaks of white of the paper showing through. So for me to get a very good organic feel to that is by using a water bottle. This has a trigger top, and you tighten it to the very tightest, and as loosening it, see what droplets you get. And so I'm just, and you get kind of like a scaly lizard droplets. And I don't, you can kind of see.
Kinda, yeah.
And this gives me some really, really cool shapes, because that's what we're looking for, is we're looking for shapes. So I'm going over to my palette here, and I'm going to start with, if you look at the bird, if you look at the image of the bird, the underlaying that you see is yellow. You see that under, so I'm going to, that's how I decide what color to start with. So I'm going to start with yellow, and I want to use a lot of water, to have a lot of water. So I'm going to use my quill. So I'm putting it in clean water, and then I'm just going to pick up my yellow, my Hansa medium. And I'm just going to tap in those areas. I like to have my background and my image kind of merge together, so that my background have some edges of color that go from the background to the foreground. And so I don't care if I get drips. I actually love it when I get some drips. But you can see that even though I used a lot of water, I'm getting a really nice flow of color. And I'm looking at where the, pardon, go ahead.
Your paint is also pretty thick, right?
It's more, no, it's not.
It looks really pigmented.
There it is.
Oh.
Lots of water. Lots of water. If you look, you can see that I have a bead of water here. That's what you want for this type of painting. You know, there's so many ways to paint with watercolor that, you know, this is the way that I enjoy doing it.
I'd be so scared of not painting inside the lines.
You know, those lines are, and I usually don't draw this dark. I drew darks to make sure that you guys could see it. But it just depends. And then these, you know, I'll even, you know, splatter some water on color on here too. But I want to have these little peaks of the paper coming through. And then just have it drip on down here and have some fun. Okay, now we're going to go into our next color, which is our next color. I am going to mix my green and my blue together, and I'm going to pull in. And I'm looking at my reference, but let the watercolor do its thing too. I'm getting a nice drip down here. I have a towel at the bottom here to kind of keep it so that it's not dripping all over the floor.
Yeah.
And you don't go ahead.
You're not really controlling it.
Not really. I'm kind of telling it where to go in a way, but letting it
flow.
Letting it flow. Just let it flow. I'm going to put some of this green, I think, in my background here, and kind of scribble around and just have some fun with it. Now I'm going to get a little deeper with my color, and I'm going to add some deeper colors of blue. This blue, the phthalo, is, you can see that it's very, the pigment is really strong.
Yeah.
And it's going to go along where it's wet. Do you see that it's traveling right down
Yeah.
and making a really, really cool effect? Okay. Now, right here, I forgot. I have red and orange that comes down here. So I'm just going to take a thirsty brush and I'm going to take that away where I got it. Or I can dab it there. And I'm going to add my orange, which is the red and my yellow mixed together. And I'm going to let that seep down. And you can see that when it gets in with the green, we have the three primaries going together. So it's going to give me a nice neutral red,
Yeah.
orange.
We also had a question if you've ever tried dye-based liquid watercolor.
Dye-based liquid watercolor.
Like those,
No.
no?
Wait, yes, I have. Yes, I have. Oh, yes, I have. I I teach a lot of kids classes too, and we played with that, and it is so much fun. It does this. I can see why somebody asked about that. We used coffee filters and made our own papers
Oh, wow. That
with
sounds fun.
the coffee filters. It was a lot of fun. Lots of fun. But I haven't tried to actually do any of my work with those. Okay, I'm just putting in thicker paint for some colors that I know I want.
So thicker paint slides less than.
Yeah, you
Yep.
have. I just have a bit of it, and you can see that it is going to be thicker, with a darker pigment in there. And then I want to get some of this green kind of going on here. And close in some of these white areas. I want some of them, but I don't want all of them.
How do you judge when it's enough white or it's
That's a really good question. Yeah, it depends because it does give you texture. So you need to think of, is the form coming across the roundness of the bird's head? Am I getting some, or is this, or the white spots just too much texture, so that the bird isn't coming through?
So to put the colors in, you're looking at the reference, but
Yes,
and that's how you're judging, right?
yes. Somewhat, people would look at that and say, "What?" But you'll see that when it comes through. And with watercolor, doing it this way, there's a point where it looks very messy, like you see here.
Yeah.
We want to get some color down in this area too. So I'm just going to let some of this flow on down. And I'm going to start mixing in the red oxide. When you mix the red oxide, this is amazing. With the red oxide, which is a dark red, brown, kind of like burnt sienna. And if you mix that with the blue, look at what you get. You get a very dark, and it can almost look black. So I'm going to test that out and put it on here. Oh, that's good because it's blue, and I can just charge in. Charging in is when you in a wet area, you bring in a color and you can charge that down.
And I'm gonna charge it down.
When you charge, you're taking a color. So let me take this blue, and if I touch it just right here, and you can see that I'm making that brown a little bluer now. If I wanted to pull some a yellow, let's say I wanted to have this be just a little bit more yellow. Let me get a little bit more water here. There we go. See how that charged in?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. So that's how you can kind of direct if you want to change the color. Look at this beautiful neutral that I'm getting right here. And that's the three primaries together. I did not put that brown in that area. It's making its own. So really, you don't need to have a lot of colors. You just have to have your three primaries so that you can make those colors. I want to mix kind of
so before you keep painting, but I just wanted to interrupt you for 1 second to remind everyone that Tina is going to be teaching a mini workshop where she will be teaching you how to paint that amazing tiger she showed us at the beginning. It is an hour and a half, and it's $5.50. And I will drop the link on the chat so you can sign up, but don't hesitate to grab your seat quickly because we are selling out. So yeah, just go for it. And you will be able to learn all this wonderful techniques from Tina, ask her even more direct questions, and get all of it with her. So there you go. It's on the chat right now. And we have a comment here from Priyanka saying that this class is giving her so much joy.
Oh, sweet. Oh, that's what it's all about, right? That's exactly what it's all about. Okay, so since with this, we're going to be doing that active line with the pen. I don't have to get into a bunch of detail with my bird, with the colors. I just want to make sure that I'm celebrating what watercolor is all about. Getting those washes of transparency and all that fabulous movement of color. That's what we want in this bird.
Yeah.
Now, if I had, oh, look at that. See how that yellow just comes right here. Fabulous. Yeah, that's what I love about watercolor. Right here, do you see where it's all puddling up here? So I'm going to take my rag. If I would have left that puddle there, what happens is the water seeps behind that tape, and then it'll do those blooms.
Oh.
You see, and sometimes they're desirable, but sometimes they're not.
Yeah, it's about knowing, right? So you can control the outcome better. Yeah. We have someone signed up.
Pardon?
I was just going to tell you that we have someone signed up for your mini workshop already.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Okay, so this also, me being really looking at my edges, it's also given me time to look at what I have. And I'm going to use my spritz bottle again because I want to create some texture here. So I'm just gonna, and you see the
Ooh,
little dots I'm getting?
yeah.
It's just so much fun. This is one of my favorite ways of painting. You can do this type of underpainting, as an underpainting for something that is very detailed at the end. So normally I would let this dry. I can remember you can use a thirsty brush. And if you want some highlights, I can pull those out with a thirsty brush. So if you're doing a landscape and you need, you can always go in and just take out some color. You could use a rag. You got to be careful that you don't leave a texture that you don't want. That's why I like to use a rag, not paper towels, because sometimes paper towels will leave a texture. You also have to make sure that, see, I've got paint there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go my light areas with the green paint.
I'd never heard about paper towels giving texture before. I've always used paper towels. I never even considered why not.
Yeah, they can. They can leave a texture. It just depends. And here it's puddling up here, so I have to wipe away. Yep. And since this is just an hour demo, I'm going to do the cooking channel thing. And I'm going to put this away and bring out one that's dry.
So super dry.
Yeah. Okay. So here's one that's dry. Every time, let me show you. This is the bird that you saw on the advertisement. You can see that every time it's going to turn out different with your colors. And of course, I spent a little bit more time than just an hour on this piece. But you can see that you can kind of see how I did this by what I demoed for you. So now we have it super, super dry. You want to make sure that it is before you add your, we'll look at this one after. You can also dry it at an angle. If you wanted it to flow like here, stick it on your easel so that it's light. So if you wanted like the action, really the action of this is going more this way. So as it's wet, you can tilt it and figure out how you want your colors to go. Now, you could use a hair dryer.
Yep. If
you wanted to, but you don't with a hair dryer, you wouldn't get this. Do you see how those colors did that little feathery feather thing? Yeah. So if you're using a hair dryer, you're locking in what you have.
How long do you think it would take for it to dry?
I would wait a few hours if you're not drying it with the hair dryer. Yep. You want it to be, it's completely, because you'll ruin your ink. Your ink won't go on right. Your pens shouldn't get wet. So now I'm going in with my pens. Let's talk about the brush pen. I love this brush pen because, oops, that's not the brush pen. Here's the brush pen. It actually has the fibers uh, like a brush does. It's not
Yeah.
foam. A lot of the brush pens are foam. This one is not foam. So I can do more of a paint stroke with this. And I can also do very fine detail because it's more like a brush.
Mm.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do some of the large areas with this. And this is very Zen oriented once you get started.
Yeah.
I could do that too. Do you see how I have a brush where it's going up? I wouldn't be able to do that with the foam. His eye.
So if any of our viewers missed it, Tina is teaching a mini workshop with Etcher. It's 1 hour and 30, $5.50, and it's going to be amazing. And if you missed it, you probably don't know, but you're going to get to paint a super cool tiger. So I will drop the mini workshop link on the chat again, just in case you missed it and you want to sign up. And Tina, I had 4 more people say they had just signed up to your mini workshop.
Oh, nice. Thank you. I'm looking forward to doing it. I do love tigers, doing tigers. So.
And also, if anyone hearing us, you're part of an organization and you want a private workshop, you can contact us at Etcher Lab and we'll get back to you with more info. So those will be really cool.
I'm going to do a large area here and show you how you can add. What I was really excited about these brush pens is the ink that is used in here. You can put color pencil over, and that is not true with all ink. And I'm choosing areas that I see that are dark in here. And I know that you're probably thinking, oh, it's not black. Well, it's not going to be black at the end, or unless you choose it to be. I think the combination of ink and watercolor is so awesome because of you have the flow of the watercolor and the freedom and the spontaneous part of watercolor. And then we're putting in this hard line that is not transparent. And it's a great contrast. I think it makes the watercolor even appear more amazing.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever use, we had this question in the chat, if you ever use colored pens instead?
No, I have not. I'm not quite sure if I would like that because I like the transparency. You know, that's a good question. I've done the pens that have that are water soluble, where you draw with them and then you can add water. That is very cool.
They're also asking if you're using the tracing lines you had before to determine where you are using your ink pen or not.
I am kind of using that, but I'm looking here. So hopefully my tracing lines indicate some of what's going on. Like I might want to do some of the feathers coming up through here. In if they take more classes and workshops from me, I'll talk about how you choose what shape to make these dark lines. You have to think of connecting shapes. I'm also looking, so I've got enough of that. Let's go in with, and I like to do a scribble line.
So this is more of a fine line point, right?
Yes, this is the 05.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I'll put details that I see in the eye. Do some parallel line. Sometimes, you know, a stipple, whatever I think. I also really like to look at these little areas where I have white and outline those. And then I see that it's dark in here, but I don't want it to be as dark as the beak because I want the beak to come forward. So I'm just going to do some lines. Because now we have a part of the watercolor paper showing through, so it's appearing as that it's gray instead of.
Yeah.
So when you have lines close together.
Oh, we can't see. There you go.
Thank you. You have lines that are close together. And then you get them closer together, a darker value. Further apart, a lighter value. Closer together, a darker value.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you're doing. And I will do that with a scribble too. Closer together scribble will be a darker value than a scribble that's further away.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me show you what I do with the color pencil down here. I would finish all my my outlining and putting texture in. And then you can see, I'm going to choose a.
We still got time though. There's like 15 minutes left still.
Yeah. I just want to make sure, because I don't know if people have questions on this. So I'm going to go in, and here I have, it's a pretty light green.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to put that right in. And I have a couple of options here. I like doing this, where I kind of outline there. And I could, if I wanted to, I could go in and put some color in there. So I'm going to show you the difference between, here's one where I put the green in. Here's one where I put a brown in, and then I colored the black. And so it's giving a a different color within the black and the
Can
dark
you
value.
bring it closer to the camera? Aha, now we can see. And why do you add these? Is it like personal preference, adding more color?
It's adding a action line. It's also doing a mark making that I really enjoy doing. It's different than what I've seen others do. It gives more dynamic. It also is using, I have all values going on here where I have the white of the paper to the blackest black. And then I have things in between. So it's taking, a lot of times people look at watercolor and they think, well, it's so washed out. It's very pastel. This adds a lot of dynamic to your watercolor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also have another question if you're using negative shapes with your painting.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I'm looking at my negative shape that I have here. I really like this diagonal for my composition.
Mm-hmm.
Having the diagonal, and I'm going to even increase that by adding some marks in the background here.
But there I can see that you're sort of following where the watercolor left a mark.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. And then I could put some marks that are going to mimic what's going on in here. We do have the option of using finer liners as we get up in here too. You know, I could pull out a number 2, or since this is a 05, I can pull out a thinner.
Yeah.
A thinner one.
Those needle pointed.
Yep, I certainly can do that. If we had more time, I could, you know, think about that.
And we have a question here about watercolor pencils.
Oh, watercolor pencils are fabulous. Yes, I've used those before. The problem with watercolor pencils is that the pigment doesn't move quite as well as your tubed watercolor. But Car and Dash, they're museum grade watercolor pencils that are really expensive for color pencils. They are the best. And the best way to use those is you can actually scribble them on a cutting board, on a white cutting board, and then you can get that pigment wet and use it just like you would here. So you can have I think I've got one. So you can see that I scribbled the color pencil on here and then added water to this and painted, and I could get a flow. And then I also have those colors that I can do the details with, you know, to use the pencil. Good question.
So you can go as detailed or as not detailed as you want with this. Yes.
Yes, you can. You can get very detailed. You don't have to use What did I do with my brush pen? Around here somewhere. Oh, there it is. You can get very detailed with using the rigger too. So you don't have to go in with your ink. Riggers, I can get very, very fine line with those. With a rigger, you load it up completely all the way to the end of the shaft. Or this is also called a script or a liner. And then you can make very, very fine lines.
Oh yeah.
You can make really, really fine and you have quite a bit of control for that. And you can go, this is what's so nice that it has such a long shaft to it that it holds water and pigment all the way to the end. So it's more like a fountain pen that you have, and you can keep, you know, I'm going for a long time.
Wow. Yeah.
And you also, an old drafting trick is to turn it as you're going so that you're not making the bristles fat. You're turning it and you're keeping the bristles thin.
Oh yeah.
As you're going. So, you know, draftsmen do that with a pencil on the ruler, and they'll turn the pencil as they go. Well, I have drafting experience too, and I just do that automatically. And I've looked and I thought, what am I doing? Oh, I'm doing that with the rigger, and it actually works to do that. And you can see I didn't dip that back into water.
No, it lasted a long time.
Yeah, and then you get these skip lines when you go fast, which is really nice. You can have distance trees with them. I really, really like using the rigger. We'll use the rigger a lot for our tiger. We'll go in and do a lot of fine work with that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll go in and keep the questions coming. I love them. These are nice. Nice questions. Love questions.
And we had another sign up to your mini workshop.
Sweet.
Yay.
Oh, you can just hear that pen just, I don't know if you guys can hear that.
Yeah.
Scratching across it's a kind of an awesome sound.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome sound. I tell you, Etcher, I think is doing a really fantastic job of keeping the art community going. I think in this time we really needed this.
Yeah, it makes my Fridays a lot better for sure.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. It's quite a thing. Art should be shared, and it's actually for everybody.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
it can be learned. It's not something that, you know, people say, oh, you know, that person is so talented.
Yeah.
That's, you know, it's because they worked. You can learn. It's
practice.
it's practice. It's just learning how to see.
And getting your hand to do what your brain wants.
Of course. Of course. I'm going to go in with the colored pencil. And, you know, this is when for this type of work, this is when you turn on the music and you just let it flow.
Do you ever worry about light fastness?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you have to worry about that. With the color pencils, they've done a lot of research on that, and you can actually through the National Color Pencil Society, they have a list of color pencils and their light fastness. If you wanna check, the reds are the worst.
Mm.
There's a lot of people that won't use certain reds.
And do you seal your work, or do you just let it make it?
Do I what?
Do you seal your work? Like,
Oh, seal it.
Mhm.
I just started for watercolor. The general thing to do is to just have it framed under glass or under plexiglass.
Mm.
You don't spray it. You don't do anything to it. And a lot of color pencil works are like that too. But now a lot of people are submitting work for shows that they actually spray it with a archival spray,
Oh, okay.
and then they seal it. Some people use a let's see, what's it called? It's a Durlar. It's a wax.
Oh,
Yeah, so they would spray it, and you spray it about 3 times with the archival spray, and that locks in the watercolor and makes it so that when it gets wet, the color won't move.
mm.
And then you have this topic wax that you can put on. And I actually was experimenting with that and did it with a piece, and then took my spray bottle and just sprayed the heck out of it, and the water just beat it up and flowed down and didn't even touch the watercolor.
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing. And so people are not putting glass over their pieces. They're just framing it like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's okay. I can also add color pencil to the watercolor too. As long as I selected these colors because I knew, do you see how that color was made?
Yeah.
In watercolor. You can see how I already knew what colors were going to be made here. So, and then here's the blue. So if I want something to be a little bit bluer, a little bit more yellow, like right here, let's say we want to pull that yellow out a little bit in this area. And it will not come across that it's color pencil over top. It's just brightening up. I wish I had something dull here that I can show you. Oh, let's go right here. If I thought, oh, I don't want that to be that gray. So I'm just going to change it just a little bit here. Now, if I'm looking at this and I see, I don't want all these whites. Let's say I don't want all of this. And I want to tone this down just a little bit, this white. So what I can do, I want to make sure my brush is clean. What I can do is I can just add water. So I'm just adding water. And I could pull some of that color that is already on And I can pull some of that color. Now it has a green tint to it.
Yeah.
If I just want it, I didn't mind it being light, but I just wanted to get rid of the white. You know, I didn't want it to be white. I think white would have been okay. But you can do that. Or let's say I want to add more color. Let's say that that's not doing enough for me. So I can just, I want tea consistency, you know, like dirty water consistency first on my brush. And I can just charge in a little bit of color. And so don't be afraid, you know, of the whites, but it does leave a hard line. It does leave a hard line. But if I didn't want this line to be hard, oh, it's actually 8 o'clock.
Oh, you're good. Keep going.
Am I okay?
Yeah, we're all super entertained here.
Okay, so if I have a hard line here, so I can take some water and very gently, I'm going to wet the area, and I'm going to wet it a little past, and you can see that the color still still moving a little bit. Can you see? Still moving a little bit there. And then I can take this brush and I can tickle that edge. Look at that.
Yeah.
So, you know, don't be afraid of these lines, because you can actually soften those edges.
Wow. I'm going to use that expression forever. Tickle the edge.
Tickle the edge. Yeah. Just tickle that edge. But you have to make sure that when you're doing that, that you're wiping, because what I'm doing is I'm getting that pigment on my brush. And so I need to do that. Now you could do it even, this is actually amazing if we have time to do. And I wouldn't do this. This is what always happens to my demo pieces that get ruined, because I do all kinds of stuff. But we could put tape. Let's say we want a triangle here. We don't want a triangle here, you guys. But let's say we do.
It's an example.
Yeah.
Don't freak out.
We're going to put a triangle right here. Triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sponge. Okay, here's a sponge. I'm going to wet the whole sponge and then wring it out. Okay. And then, now this is phthalo, and it's very staining. Phthalo is really, really staining.
Was the sponge dry?
No, it was wet. I wet it, and I wringed it out.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Now you can only do that with good paper. You know, it's got to be 100% cotton paper. You know, you try it out. I know Arches will just take all this. Yeah. But you can do that, and then you could even scrub out an area too. Let's say you wanted birch trees. Yeah. You know, yeah, and you can take them out like that.
So I remember that you said in your other paintings that you used gesso?
Gesso, yes. The reason why I use black gesso, gesso is actually a ground, and I can pull. Here's a.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Oh, this is black gesso in here that I painted with a brush. It's a ground, so it's a very flat black.
Yep.
And it has it gives me a nice tooth to add color pencil to. I actually painted this upside down.
Oh, nice.
Like this, and got the trees, the tree trunks with using just lots of color up here and using the spray bottle coming down, and then taking a brush and kind of moving what I was putting down and moving that around to make the foliage.
Yeah.
And then I had kind of a mess here, right? So I used that tape technique. I ripped tape to make my hills. So I just took a piece of tape and ripped it so that I had jagged ends.
Yeah, to make your hills.
And placed it around, and then scrubbed out these shapes that I thought would look good with the trees. And then, yeah, and then added the black gesso, and lots of fun. I like to work with lots of water and letting the watercolor do the work.
Yep. Thank you so much for explaining this so fully. I was reading the comments, and they're super excited. We had one comment saying that the trees would make a great 3-hour workshop. So something to think about. I'm going to stop spotlighting the video for a second so we can see your face. Is that okay?
Yes, definitely.
And I also wanted to let everyone know that if you do want to create your own parrot using Tina's techniques, then please tag us on Facebook and Instagram when posting the art that you made, or even pictures that you took during the session while you're watching it, with the hashtag Etcher Mini Workshop or Etcher Lab. And that way we can follow what you're doing and see what you created during this demo.
Oh, I would love to see it. That would be great.
Yeah, it would be super cool. Our next live demo will be tomorrow at 12 p.m. EST, where you will be learning how to create fantastical creatures from imagination using ink and watercolor with I Paint Creatures. So that one's going to be a blast for all of you creature lovers out there. And please enroll in Tina's mini workshop. I saw everybody signing up already. We are super excited to see you there painting that amazing tiger. And if you want to follow Tina, you can go to her website, which is www.tinasartforms.com.
Yes.
I don't know, Tina, if you wanted to add anything before we finish for the night.
No, this was an awesome experience. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to doing the workshop, and then maybe doing a 3-hour. I would love to do this tree workshop for you. That would be awesome fun.
Yeah, that would be super cool. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. We had a blast, and thank you for all those great questions and for staying engaged. We really enjoyed having you here today. And please fill out our survey, sign up for Tina's mini workshop so you can learn more about her fantastic techniques and ask her more questions, and tune into the next live demo. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night. Well, it's night.
Bye, everyone.